How common is it that an NFL player is going to substitute teach in their free time? Like, is that normal?
No, I mean, especially, you know, when you're over 6 feet and you got dreadlocks. Ain't too many substitute teachers looking like me out there, but, you know, I was Mr. Steeples, not Coach Steeples at that time.
Hey, Badger Nation. Coach Mike Tressel here, live from Camp Randall Stadium. I know you guys have been following us as we've worked hard to add talent to the team, but you probably haven't recognized the talent we've added to our coaching staff. So I am here with our new cornerbacks coach, Coach Robert Steeples. Coach Steep, welcome to Wisconsin.
I appreciate you having me, Tress.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know everybody here is fired up to get to know you. We've met a few times prior to this, but not for years and years and years, like maybe a couple of the other coaches on staff. I'd like to start out by having you just tell us a little bit about you, your background, your family.
Yeah, born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm pretty proud of that. You know, the youngest of 6, so I come from a pretty big family. Well, you know, my mom and pop, I would say my older sisters were kind of my sports role models. They're the ones that got me on the basketball courts and football fields early, and so I really looked up to them. You know, but probably my proudest accomplishment is probably being married to my wife, Evelyn, and our 4 kids. Now we got 4 of them under the age of 6, so we got a pretty full house, but got my oldest daughter, 𝘽𝘀, my son, Rocco, my daughter, Ryan, and then our newborn, 𝘬𝑯𝑆.
Busy.
Yeah, real busy household. She's holding it down.
Well, I've heard she's pretty smart too. I don't know where her education might have started, but I did hear she's a sharp lady.
Yeah, she comes from a part of Minneapolis, St. Paul area that produces a lot of talent. You might be familiar with it, 𝘬𝑃 Park. I know you guys went to the same high school.
𝘬𝑃 Park High School.
Yeah. So everywhere I've been on my coaching journey, my wife's kind of been the prelude to it. You know, when I was at LSU, she was an alum of there. When I played for the Vikings, she was from Minneapolis. We met my rookie year, and now the 𝘬𝑃 Park ties, and I think it's the same high school and middle school with you. And so she's kind of led the way every step of the way.
A small world.
Yeah.
That's why you got the job. We're all straight with that, right?
And she was a heck of an athlete too. She was an all-state pitcher, so she threw a rise ball.
That's awesome. So you mentioned meeting when you were with the Vikings. So I know football has been a huge part of your life for a long time. Why don't you take us through your football journey and roll from playing to coaching? Yeah,
I mean, the first thing I always like to take pride in is all but 1 year of my coaching to playing career, I played to coach the cornerback position. Besides, when I was 6, I started out with the City Rec Junior Rams out. At one point, I was offensive tackle, and then quickly moved to the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, played my ball in St. Louis at DeSmet High School. I was fortunate enough to go on from there to play DB at the University of Missouri, and eventually transferred over to Memphis University. And then continue my playing career in the NFL. I was kind of a journeyman, but spent most of my career with the Vikings and Cowboys, and then some brief stints with the Rams and Chiefs. And the most awesome part towards the back end of my playing career with the Cowboys, I started to substitute teach in my off seasons back home in St. Louis. And that's actually what opened me up to the idea of coaching.
How common is it that an NFL player is going to substitute teach in their free time? Like, is that normal?
No, I mean, especially, you know, when you're over 6 feet and you got dreadlocks. Ain't too many substitute teachers looking like me out there. But I would say this, the awesome thing was one of the schools I taught at, you know, I was a new sub. And as the day goes along, the students get a little more edgier, you know. And so you kind of hear whispers of like, hey, I know who this guy is, right? I know who this guy is. And so I'm, you know, being fake humble, like, okay, here comes the big reveal. They're about to know that the Dallas Cowboy guy is coaching, or is the substitute teacher. So I go up to him, and some kid finally comes up to me and says, all right, I know who you are, Mr. Steeples. And he shows me his phone, and it's a SoundCloud rapper. They had no idea who I was as a player. And so that was, I always say 2 things that humble you is kids and your wife. So they definitely kept me humble there, but I ended up getting more out of them and just seeing how much our young people are really capable of and the depth of thought that they have. And so I got to kind of teach at all levels. You know, I was Mr. Steeples, not Coach Steeples at that time. And that opened me up to coaching, and so the opportunity to come back home to DeSmet, you know, be less of a journeyman, be situated and have some stability, and come home and coach at a place that I, you know, used to walk those same fields with. And when that opportunity presented itself, you know, I was torn between going into another NFL season or coaching. And, you know, the way I always look at it is God kind of communicates to you through your spirits. And I caught myself writing a lot less of playing drills and off-season development and spent more time writing coaching philosophy. And that's when I kind of knew it's time to start coaching. And so I went there, coached at 𝘽𝑃. We were fortunate enough to turn that program around. I had an awesome coaching staff, great players, kind of really pushed our Mad Men thing then. And from there, was able to return back to the Vikings and coach with my previous head coach, Coach Mike Zimmer, and Coach Ryan Ficken. And so coached there. From there, ended up coaching cornerbacks at LSU for 2 years, and then had the awesome opportunity to go back to Iowa State and work on the offensive side of the ball, which was something that I thought would really kind of roll the dice with it, but a professional development move that I thought would give me different perspective that I could have as a coach and also provide my players. And then I got the call from Big Tress and Coach Fick to come up here and coach cornerbacks here at Wisconsin. So it's been a fruitful journey, but I had a lot of awesome people that poured into me along the way.
You said you turned around 𝘽𝑃 when you got there as a head coach. Tell me about that turnaround. Like, where were you at? Where did you end up? How'd that go?
When we got there, I think we had maybe won, 3 games in the past 2 to 3 years. We were struggling a little bit as a program, and I was a younger head coach, my first head coaching opportunity. But we started out 2-1. That was like our first win streak, and we were pretty excited about that. That was first win streak in a while, and then proceeded to lose our next 15 games. And in that window, I had to learn how to become a much better head coach. And then also I learned the value of ownership, placing ownership on my student athletes as well, because a lot of our young people at the time kind of thought success was just kind of a fate thing. And what you find out is just as much as you earn your success, you also earn your failures. And so you're earning something every day. And so I think the ownership piece was huge for them, but then also for me as a coach improving. And so we were able to get that going. I was also the strength coach, so we were in the weight room, and we went from, struggling the first year to, winning 20 games in a row, having back-to-back state championship appearances, and being ranked in the country, as high as 8th in the country, and like I said, we coined ourselves Mad Men. I'm very proud of that, and there's a lot of guys out there now that are now getting into coaching. Like, that's how long ago it was. They're now coaching, and some guys are team captains on their respective college teams, and got a few guys in the NFL too.
Then you rolled into college coaching. I actually started my college coaching on the offensive side of the ball. I've coached offensive line, quarterbacks, you name it, and it's been huge for me to understand from that perspective. So I'm anxious to see how coaching the offense the last year or so is going to benefit you. That'll be fun to watch. I'm gonna jump ahead.
Yeah,
you're here. Why Wisconsin?
The biggest draw, because I kind of went on my OV just like the players did when I came up here. The biggest draw was the opportunity to build. That's kind of been my journey as a coach. I've been a part of a lot of, whether it was rebuilds or developmental programs, just that building process. And I think when you've started at step 5 or step 10, you have a different outlook. But when you've had to start at ground zero and go all the way to step 10, the rebuilding process, you kind of see the beauty in the struggle, the value of the moment. You can have a little bit more poise as you go through it. But when I got up here and got around the coaching staff and got on the phone with you guys, I love the optimistic outlook that you all had. It wasn't talking about the challenge that this is. It was the opportunity that we have to do something special here. And, it's one thing, like they say, if you want to go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so I kind of felt convicted in the fact that I wasn't the only person that saw this optimistic outlook of what we can do with this season. It was a lot of great men and women leading this program already.
Yeah, I'm fired up about what you bring. I'm fired up about our coaching staff, our team. It's an exciting time right now for the Badgers. So one of the things I thought was really interesting as we were looking to hire you was the different connections coaches had to you in different areas, whether it was recruiting or coaching or peers as fellow coaches. Mm-hmm. So let the Badger Nation know a couple of these connections that you had, because a lot of times it is partially who you know.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of like the coincidental things as you go through the hiring process. Like, obviously, Coach E.J. Whitlow and Coach Mitchell used to recruit ΔSMET High School back when I was a high school head coach back there. And then probably the biggest one is Tuff Borland. When he was with the Vikings, I helped coach him on special teams, and Tuff was a grinder. Like, he was getting in as early as the coaches. He earned a lot of my respect and a lot of his teammates' respect, and so we kept in touch, as he transitioned out of playing. And so I think, seeing Tuff on the field, that was pretty impressive. And then Coach Fick and some of his staff, we crossed paths in the past as well. And so it's a lot of interesting connections. And then from my stint on offense, you get to know some of the offensive guys, some of the bad guys too.
I mean, only bad guys in spring ball.
Yeah, just spring ball and fall camp.
So, Steve, you talk about the connections you've had with all the defensive coaches, but you also have some connections with some of the guys we were able to bring in the portal. Why don't you talk to us about some of those guys you already knew and how you helped us get them to become Badgers?
First, it started with, like I say, just this Wisconsin program is what it is. Like my philosophy in recruiting is don't be a salesman, be a steward. And a steward is somebody that actually believes in the opportunities that they're offering, whereas a salesman just pushing a product. So the first thing in recruiting was you all obviously selling me in this place, selling itself as a program. From there, it made me feel a lot more convicted with moving forward with some of the guys we had. Obviously, Kai Bates was a young man that was committed to me prior in the recruiting process back at LSU. So, that relation was kind of cool to see that come full circle. Javen Robinson, it was pretty awesome. Him and Fletcher kind of in a similar boat, matched up with them back when I was in Big 12 play on the offensive side of the ball. And so you kind of got to see the challenges that they presented to our offenses. And then Bryce just being, a super talented guy that had ties already, to this region and to this conference. And just his film kind of speaks for itself. But then the guys we already got on roster. So as I was in the portal, I'm also talking to our guys that are in my room, because at the end of the day, they kind of know how things operate, and they had a lot of talent themselves. And so it was a very educational process. And what kind of made it dope was that I was able to go through it with the guys that I was recruiting at the same time. So like seeing the Capitol building, outside of Lucille's, like that was pretty awesome. Like, oh shoot, that's pretty cool, and like taking those things in, and I don't try to hide my emotions. So I was like, we were kind of all at the same time. And so I think that process, the connection with me also made it awesome. But I think what made it the best was I think we were all kind of like enamored with this place.
So I'm really excited about the talent we have in the corner room right now. And a lot of them are new guys, and a number of them are guys that have been here. How are you going to mold that together?
I think a big part is going to be competitiveness and unit pride. I think the best thing I can provide for them as a coach is clarity in my role and clarity in their role. Clarity and purpose is probably the best thing we can do. But I think, when you get around these young guys, it's pretty easy. They love football first and foremost. The next thing is they're going to develop trust, with myself and those around them. But I would say the best way I build cohesion is by letting them be them. I make up a word called discipline, which is freedom within a discipline system. And so freedom to be themselves within the discipline of what we do. But I'm going to let them be them, learn them as much as they learn me, and just be very clear in what the expectations are. But at the end of the day, we're going to keep it fun and take pride in it. And like, I played this position for a long time. I've lived it, I've breathed it. And so I know, being a corner is a different mindset, because you're on this island, you're used to isolation, but you still have your social piece you do too. But it's already started in our group chats and talking about the NFL playoffs and things, outside of just what's expected of us in our football role.
So you're coming in, you're going to get to work with the cornerbacks. Is there anything that you maybe took from one of the coaches you had in the past or through your coaching or playing career that really stuck with you, that you're going to make sure you can get across to your guys?
I would say there's probably threefold. I would say the first thing is, when I first took over as a high school coach, no matter how high or low your standards are as a coach, your players are going to meet you at them. One thing I got from Rob Marinelli back when I was with Dallas was coach the man first and the player second. I really responded to that approach.
Saying I coach the man first and the player second really reminds me of something I was taught from my grandfather years and years ago, because Tressel family, we're all coaches. Mm-hmm. He said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
True.
And it's right along the same lines.
We do football 3 hours in a day. The other 21, we're just human beings. And if you can master being a great human being, you'll simply master football. And then probably on the football field, just what I expect from my cornerback group is, kind of a philosophy of we don't just defend, we dictate. And I know you and I talked about that is kind of, a lot of times just in the word defend means to respond and to react. I think in the word dictate, that means you're deciding the terms. And so using the talent around us, the rush in front of us, the help, the leverage, the calls that you put on the field for us, that'll all be opportunities for us to dictate to the offense what we want from them. And so when we can shift that mindset from just being a response mindset to a dictating mindset, now you can play what one of my coaches likes to say is offensive defense, where you're deciding the terms.
So as we wind things down here a little bit, portal just closed and we get to move forward. So what are the next big steps and what are you looking forward to right now?
I would say, obviously the way our room's constructed right now is you got a lot of guys from different backgrounds and different journeys. And the thing I'm most excited about with the construction of our room is that all their paths and journey have made them extremely hungry. And so I think you can expect a hungry group because they also got a very hungry coach. And so I think you're going to get an opportunistic group that's going to fly around. They're going to have fun. They're going to bring energy to the defense and to the room. But most importantly, it's a hungry group with a hungry coach. And I'm just going to be in the trenches with them as a 12th man. And I think what they do on the field will definitely bring, help bring a lot of excitement and life to our team.
Well, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to work with you. Badger Nation, I appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit. We're ready to get to work.
All right, Badger Nation, let's get it. Yeah, right there, right there. There you go, there you go.